Good evening, cheeseheads. We're back. World Cup's over. We're back to start talking Spurs. Little bit of World Cup stuff before we get into that, but about the Spurs players. But we're back. Little bit of housekeeping before we get into it. Please, if you're watching, hit the like button. Helps us with all the stuff I do not have a clue about. But please hit the like button so the boss doesn't tell me off. Anyway, let's get into it. So, with me tonight, first of all, top corner, Craig. How are you, mate? Enjoyed the World Cup? Glad to be back.
I'm buzzing to be back talking about Spurs. I didn't quite get into the World Cup as much as I thought I may. I'm not sure why. Nothing to do with politics or anything. Just I think time of year perhaps. But some good games in the World Cup. But more importantly, I'm really excited that in less than 1 week we'll be back. Spurs will be back, and then by the end of January we'll probably be hating our lives again.
Beautiful. You know it, mate. That's what Spurs does to you. Bottom left, James the Drinker. How are you, me old pal? All right?
I'm good. I've had flu for like 3 weeks, so I've been bedridden. I cut my hair, actually, because my fringe was annoying me. So
you cut it?
My eyes and, I always cut my own hair. I'm not paying. Someone else did it. Yeah. I'm not paying.
What did you put a bowl over your head, James?
Well, no, because the back's long. It's a mullet now. You can't really tell. So
he got the old Chris Waddle, any?
Yeah, mate. Business at the front, Chris Waddle. Party at the back. So that's what we're rocking at the moment. But yeah, I'm good. Back drinking as it's Christmas.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to Spurs being back on Boxing Day, so I can watch that instead of talking to my family all day. So yeah, winner. Thanks for having me on.
Well, James, it's good to have you back. And as always, bottom right, HG. Good to be back on with you, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I am good. I did watch the game like everyone else yesterday, but World Cup is over. Don't care about it anymore. I am completely focused on Spurs, although I have to say I did have to look to see where we were in the table because I've forgotten all about what basically went on before the World Cup. But it's I don't know. Life's all right.
Well, I'm sure today we'll jog each other's memories and we'll soon start remembering the good and the bad times before the World Cup came along. But before we do, I've been asked to wish everybody a happy Hanukkah and every cheesehead who's celebrating. Was that yesterday? Is it today? Forgive my ignorance. Is it last for a couple of days? HG, do you know?
I think it does last for a while. Is that supposed to be Dave? Is that Dave in the middle?
I think that's Dave in the middle. Yeah, giving it some.
Doesn't look anything like Liam Gallagher. Terrible.
Lovely little bomber jacket he's got on there. But yeah. So anyway, right. Yesterday, let's get the World Cup out the way. Yesterday's final, 3-3 after extra time. Argentina go on and win on penalties. I'll tell you what. We'll start with HG because obviously Craig didn't really give a damn. So HG, what were your thoughts about yesterday's final, mate?
So we actually had a few people over to watch it. All Americans. Actually, no, 3 Americans and 1 Guatemalan who was very much for Messi. It was actually a really good game. I mean, it was a good game of football. It was one of those that kind of cruising at 2-0. Everyone was like, okay, the game's over. And then suddenly it's 2-2 and you're all on the edge of your seat. So it was a fun game to watch. A couple of very good goals that you couldn't help but get behind. When Mbappe equalised, as much as I don't like France, I liked the fact that it happened because it made for a better game. And obviously the goal that Di Maria scored was pretty good. So it was a good game of football. But at the end, I do think the right team won.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the first half and Argentina went 2-0 up and I thought, this is game over. I had to go and pick my daughter up from work. Literally got 2 miles out, and it was like 2-2, and it sounded like it turned into the best game ever. So, just typical. But James, did you watch it?
So I missed the early parts of the game because I was having lunch with my mate, and then had another drink with him. And then I'm just looking at my phone. 50th minute, Argentina 2-0 up. Everyone's saying France are dreadful. I just think, no point whacking that on. Then I check later on to see what the score is and see Mbappe's got a penalty. Then I put the game on at that point, which I think means I probably saw the only part of the game worth watching, everything from 80 minutes onwards. And yeah, that's mental. I mean, it happened last time Argentina won the World Cup. They were 2-0 up and threw away a 2-goal lead. I mean, the second Mbappe goal was brilliant, right?
Yeah.
I didn't really care who won. So for me, it was just watching a match as a neutral, and it was thoroughly entertaining, even if I didn't really care who won, you know.
Is it that awful moment when they took Di Maria off?
Did you watch
and
it,
you're sitting
Craig?
there watching
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Hang on. Just at the moment they
No,
took
no,
Di Maria
sorry,
off,
mate.
and you were kind of like, why are they doing this? Like, the guy's been the best player on the pitch. Why are they taking him off? I feel like we see this so often in World Cups where players get taken off and then suddenly everything falls apart. And it happened again. But sorry, Craig, go on.
No, it's fine. I was watching golf I was playing golf in the morning, sorry. And then I got back in off the golf course really cold and managed to catch the sort of last 70 minutes of the game. So the majority of the game. Yeah, really good final. Really, really enjoyable, actually. And it was 2-0. I thought the game was dead and buried, as everyone did. And to see France come back in the way they did was spectacular. It was a really, really good game. I'm really pleased I watched it. Like HG, I think the best team won, I think, on the day.
Yeah, I thought like Argentina, that first half, that was just them purely wanting it more than France, wasn't it?
But that second goal of Argentina, what a goal that was. Team goal. Unbelievable.
I mean, what a find. Alexis, obviously not a find, but Alexis McAllister, he's really turned up, hasn't he, HG? He's been superb.
Yeah, contract year, right? I think he's out of contract in the summer, so he's obviously almost certainly going to move on from Brighton. Although I don't think he'll stay in the Premier League. I think he's got eyes on something a bit further, maybe a bit more sunny than the Premier League. But yeah, he came in and basically did the. I feel like I'm saying he did the Lo Celso role, because Lo Celso would have started the World Cup for Argentina had he been fit, and they were trying to find the right balance in midfield. And so both, he came in and Fernandes. And they found a formation that kind of worked for them. They found a midfield that did, because I thought that Paredes was probably going to start every game, and he didn't in the end. But Argentina were like, you didn't look at them anywhere and thought they're not full of great players, but they were a pretty good team. And like even in the game they lost against Saudi Arabia, like the underlying numbers, if you want to go into that, were pretty good for Argentina the whole tournament. They outplayed most teams. They didn't concede too many chances. I think even before the final, the only high quality chance they'd conceded all tournament was to Australia right at the end of their game. So they are worthy winners. But yeah, it was just it was a fun way to end a tournament. I will say that.
I'm just saying. I knew that. Oh.
No, go on, James. You carry on, mate.
Just saying, I knew that McAllister guy was going to be a good thing, because in FM21, I won the league with him in my team, in my Marseille team. So I knew right then he was going to do good things. I thought this bloke's underrated.
You found him. Yeah. You found him, James.
15 million bargain.
But, I mean, I want to give a mention, Craig, to Mbappe. Do you know, I found amazing yesterday. He scored 3 penalties in that game. I know people but Martinez is a good penalty saver, and every one I watched of his penalties, I was like, I don't think he'll score this one. You know what I mean? Like the first one, he put it in, then the second and the third. Obviously, the third was in the penalty shootout. But class act. Yeah.
Class act, nerves of steel. I mean, we all know how hard it is to score 2 penalties in the game. We need to look just at Kane
absolutely
for England to know the pressure it puts on a player. So to do it in the World Cup final, it's just unbelievable, isn't it? Shame he's wasted in the French league.
Yeah, James. Well, Mbappe. Do you think he'll be able to emulate what like the career that Messi's had?
No, and he said that himself. No. Was it 96 goals Messi scored in 1 year? No one's going to do that again. No one.
No,
he can be a very, very good player, right?
Yeah,
he can hit those heights, and he'll probably win another World Cup and a Euros in his lifetime. I don't doubt that. And he'll probably win a lot of trophies if he makes the right move away from PSG at some point, right? Because as good a team they are, I think he has to go to a higher quality league, probably to Real Madrid, Barcelona, maybe to a City or something, right? Do I think he'll ever be as individually good as Lionel Messi? No, because I don't think many people ever will be again. Can he win as many trophies or nearly as many trophies? Sure, yeah, I think that's possible. I mean, he's already won the World Cup, right? And he got to a final. So he can get close, but I don't think you can ever truly do what Messi did in that same way. I don't think that's possible.
Nah, fair enough. HG, Mbappe, Messi.
I mean,
Come
obviously they're
close.
very different types of players, aren't they? Like,
Yeah.
Messi was always about being part of a really important part of a very good side. That Barcelona team that he played in for 5 to 10 years was the best in Europe for a lot of that. You can't really say that about Mbappe. And I mean, Craig's right. Being in the French league, it feels like we don't see him enough. We don't really know how good he actually is. Because we've got no interest in watching them play Strasbourg or whoever it is they've got. So I think that, like, for Mbappe, he has to get out of French football for people to even. I mean, it's weird that they use this against Messi the whole time, saying he stayed in Barcelona for too long and he hadn't done it in various leagues. But you don't leave Barcelona, right? Unless you are literally forced to. You don't. And so I think with Mbappe, like, I think he does want to be Real Madrid's main man. I think Benzema's not got too long. It's going to happen. I'm just not sure if Madrid really want him after what he did to them last year. I mean, that's the crazy thing. He's kind of put himself in a situation where the team that he probably really wants to play for probably don't want him anymore. And so then he'll almost certainly end up in the Premier League because of it, which is not good news for Spurs. But I think when it comes to individual qualities, that they're both incredibly good, and like it's almost like they play a different game to everyone else. Because as much as Mbappe is super fast, it's not necessarily his pace that gets him to the goals. Like if the ball's in front of him, he'll get there first. But his ability inside the box to make defenders move one way before striking at the other is something I haven't seen too often. And we've seen fast players before, but not those that do it up here as well. So I think that Mbappe is well on his way to being the next, let's say, Messi of football. But I know that I like watch when I saw Messi play. I think anyone who's seen him play in the stadium, it feels like he's playing a different game to everyone else. And for Mbappe, I don't see that just yet. He may get there, but I don't think he will.
Oh, was it Wembley when he played for Monaco? Were you there, Craig? In the Champions League, did you go to that HG? Were you there?
No.
Did you go and go for that? Yeah, I mean that he was. You could tell he was good then with Bernardo Silva. So you're saying though, just going back onto what you're saying, HG, you don't think that we've got a chance of signing Mbappe?
Well, we have a chance.
Yeah.
It's somewhere between 0% and, if no one else is interested, 0.01%.
Yeah.
Do you not think he fancies learning how to track back under Antonio Conte? Do you not think he's up for that?
And it'd be a decent replacement for Son. I mean, we could say that. Like, if we're going to let Son go, Mbappe, he might want to help us out, but no, like he'll know that he has bigger clubs than Spurs on his mind, and I'm just surprised that it's not Real Madrid. I really thought he was going to go there last summer, and I know that they gave him, obscene amounts of money to stay, but he surely knows that if he wants to be remembered, he's got enough money now. But if he wants to be remembered as a footballer rather than just a mercenary, he kind of needs to get out and play somewhere else and play against more difficult opponents every week.
Wow, if he's not going to sign for a scenic out, hey, but no,
Dave,
that's a different night.
If it cost us between 20 and 30 million, Dave.
No,
we're not having
He'll
that.
flop. He'll flop if he costs between 20 and 30. Yeah. No, so let's have a couple of minutes talking about Messi. Obviously, won it all now. Like you said, Craig, do you think the best player you've ever seen?
Live, 100%.
Or is Craig? Is he?
I'm here. Can you hear me? Yeah. Have you got me?
Can you?
Yeah,
I can hear you.
Yeah. Live as
yeah, I've got you, mate.
Yeah, live. He's the best player I've ever seen, hands down. No one even comes close. That game at Wembley when we played again, it was just. He schooled us, didn't he? Schooled us for the whole time he was on the pitch. It was just phenomenal. Just grateful I was there to see it.
James, for you, the GOAT?
Yeah, probably. I don't think it's fair to compare players in between eras because it's impossible to compare. I mean, I've been a long-standing, and this is me being a football hipster, I've been a long-standing advocate for Cruyff as one of the greatest of all time. But Messi of this generation, and arguably of all time, yes. I mean, I've only seen him play a handful of games because I never really watched La Liga, and I don't watch the French league. But from the games I've seen of him, he is just ridiculously good. I don't think there's really a debate that he is the best player of this generation. And if anyone thinks there is a debate, they're wrong, unfortunately for them, because he is the best to have played in the last 20 years.
Full house HG for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even when he was at his best in his late 20s, right, and Barcelona were flying, and like we all tuned in to watch the Barcelona Real Madrid games because it was Messi against Ronaldo, and like you knew these were the two. I mean, it was the biggest game in world football, and it happened twice a year, sometimes more if they drew each other in the Champions League. Messi, the best player on the pitch. Real Madrid knew that. Everyone knew that, and they still couldn't stop him. Like I remember one goal he scored. I think they won 5-0 in the Bernabeu in maybe a Spanish league game, and he just took the ball and took it past 3 of them before putting it in the back of the net. And you just think like that's not normal. And I've been watching football for 40 years. I've seen a load of really good players. No one comes close. Like Maradona is just about before my time, so I really can't talk about how good he was in a different era on different pitches with obviously different rules for defending. Maradona could get kicked all over the pitch in a way that Messi never was. However, even people like Zidane, who were incredible, and like when Zidane was on it, he was the best player on the pitch by a country mile. But that didn't seem to happen as often as it has done with Messi. Messi is consistently the best player on the pitch, and I've got nothing but good words to say about him. The bloke is he's a genius. I will genuinely be surprised if I see anyone as good as Messi for the rest of my days. He really is that good, that consistent for 15 years plus now. It's crazy.
Yeah, and so fair play. Like great player, longevity, and I think he's going to carry on playing for Argentina as well. But not where have you touched Maradona? When did you touch Maradona?
This is true. Thank you. This is my mother who's commenting. Look, yeah, this is true. I was 18, I think, just before I started uni, and we went to Spain on holiday as a family. And as we were about to fly home, we see the paparazzi coming, and we're like, "Oh, who's it going to be?" I mean, I'm not expecting to have any idea who it was. And then as I got closer, I see this short, fat, and he was really big then, Maradona. And it was clearly him. I mean, you recognise him easily. But so I just kind of wandered through the throng and was able to kind of just pat him on the back and be like, "Oh, I felt like I'd done something special." I mean, I got back to my mum and she was like, "Why didn't you punch him? Don't you remember?" And I'm like, "Mum, come on now." Like, and it'd only been 8 years or 10 years at that point, but still, it was like I wasn't about to punch a footballer because of what happened in Mexico City all those years ago. But
I think his entourage and security might have had. I think you might have come off worse.
I'm surprised I even got that close. Although I'm a tall guy, I mean, it was quite easy to walk between the photographers and the people that were walking next to him to literally just put my hand out and hit him on the back. But if I was in that job, I could easily have done a bit more damage. But no, it was pretty cool. I'm not going to lie, it was pretty cool.
The only other bloke who probably got that close was his dealer. So,
maybe they thought you were his dealer, HG.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Let's move on, shall we?
Yeah. So, look, obviously, we spoke about Messi. We spoke about the game a little bit, as much as I care to talk about it. Let's talk about the Spurs players involved now. Let's get back to Spurs. So, James, yes, obviously, Lloris playing for France, Romero for Argentina. What were your opinions on their performance in their tournaments as a whole?
I think it's always seemed a tad strange to me, and I was talking to my rugby friend about this, who has zero clue about football, which is brilliant. It's always seemed weird to me that we have France are arguably one of the best teams in the world, right? We've had their captain and goalkeeper, first choice goalkeeper at Spurs for like over a decade. That's always felt a little bit weird to me because Lloris is a very, very good goalkeeper, but we don't consider him in that, world-class tier, right? maybe some do, but I've never seen him as the best or the second or third best. I've always considered him top 6 or 7. But I thought he was fine from the France games I watched, which was 2, the England game, which was the first England game I watched, and England lost. So obviously I just curse whoever I watch. And the World Cup final. Kind of difficult when you let in 3 goals, but it is what it is. And I thought Romero was pretty good. There was an incident where he was getting pretty fiery in that game, which I loved. It'd be nice to see a bit of that for Spurs, wouldn't it?
See him on the pitch would be nice.
Well, yeah,
Carry on.
But I think he was their best defender, probably Romero. It's difficult as a goalkeeper in a game like that. I don't think Lloris did anything overly egregious. So that's Lloris for you. But he's won a World Cup, so that is too heartbroken.
Yeah, Craig, feel bad for Lloris, or do you think he's won a World Cup? Fuck him.
I feel bad. You've been horrible to the Spurs players this World Cup, mate. Honestly. Kane getting a bashing from you consistently.
Oh, he didn't get a bash. I'm not getting into it, but he didn't get a bashing.
No, I felt quite bad for Lloris. It would have been great for him to be the first male captain to lift it to 2 World Cups on the bounce. I think that would have been phenomenal. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be. I will say, I have always thought that that he is a world-class goalkeeper for Spurs. Ever from the moment we signed him, I've always thought he's been world-class, and I think we've been lucky to have him. I think a lot of the negativity perhaps that we may get is because I think we underappreciate him. I think we'll really value Lloris when he leaves, when he eventually does leave in the next year or two. I think we'll look back at this decade and realise we've been blessed to have him for this length of time. But I think overall he's had a fantastic tournament, Lloris. He's been, he certainly did a job against England in the tournament, didn't he? And kept a clean sheet against Morocco. And I thought he did well yesterday, made a couple of good saves yesterday. I think it's really been a strong tournament for Lloris. And on the other side, Romero, equally, I think he had a shaky start, didn't he? And he got dropped, didn't he, for the second game? I think.
Something like that.
Yeah, came back in and he's just gone on strength to strength. And from a Spurs perspective, you've got to look at it and think, well, it's great for us, isn't it? We've got another player, a young player at that, who's in our Spurs squad, who's gone in and done not just the champion, the World Cup. Then he had the South American equivalent. Is it the Copa America?
Yeah,
a couple of years ago. So he's got honours at the international stage, and it's great to have him in our dressing room. So overall, 2 players involved yesterday, 2 really good tournaments.
HG, do you agree with Craig?
I do. I mean, I think a lot of us have thought Romero was very good from the first time he stepped on a pitch for Spurs. And I know he's had a ropier second season. He didn't play as well this season as he did last year, and there are probably various reasons as to why. However, he's the type of player that Spurs will do well to hang on to. I don't want to predict the future a little bit, but if and when Conte decides he doesn't want to stay, Romero won't be far behind him. I do think that it's rough because we've only had him for 18 months. He's still got a long time left, but if he continues playing that well, then there are going to be teams around Europe that will want him. So, it's a rough one. But I do like Romero an awful lot. He's a bit impulsive. He does like a few rash challenges, but again, and we've said this before at Spurs, you want defenders like that. Like, we're looking for a second Romero. We're not looking to kind of negate the things he's really good at. We want to find someone who will complement him so we can go forward. I'm just sceptical as to how long we'll have him, sadly.
Yeah, and Keith's right here. Last 5 minutes limping. Probably thought, good chance of winning the World Cup. I've got to go back to Spurs next week. Better put a limp on so I don't have to play. But
maybe he was trying to get substituted so he didn't have to take a penalty.
Yeah,
he's getting ready for Brentford. That's his next focus. He's excited to take them on.
He won't be nowhere near Brentford next Monday, mate. Guaranteed that. But no, like you're right, HG. We've got to be looking at adding more Romero types rather than replacing them, haven't we? That's we've got Romero. We need to be adding other players of that caliber, really, don't we?
You're right, because he's just a and I mean this in the nicest possible way, he's just a horrible, horrible person. You know, he's just someone that no one likes to play against. He's just an absolute nasty word on the football pitch, and we're too nice. Spurs have always been too nice historically, so we need more personalities like Romero. And you know, HG's hit the nail on the head. He's how old is he? What, early 20s? He's got a lot of improving to do. He's got phenomenal success in the early part of his career already. He's going to get better and better and better, and it's how long we keep him, and that's going to be the thing. We've got to. Well, if we really want to push on as a club and do anything significant, he's one of those we need to keep.
I think one of the young French players sort of had a shot and turned and missed it, and then sort of like remonstrated with the referee to try and get a corner or something. And Romero was right up in his face. Obviously, if he was English, be calling him all the rude words under the sun. But yeah, he's just on the pitch, just not a nice guy I can imagine to play against.
It's that Argentinian mentality, right? Like, the thing is, we haven't seen it from Messi because he's so good he doesn't need to half the time. But the rest of that team, they are completely like playing for Argentina is everything. Like, it is the main part of their existence, and we just don't have that. I don't feel like the English have that love for the country that the Argentinians do, and there are probably various reasons as to why. But when you see, like, you know, football is literally the most important thing for them when they're playing for their country. And so if he can even have half of that playing for Spurs, Spurs will do really well. If he decides that this is his team and he's going to defend us and literally defend for us, then brilliant. But I feel that trying to find Argentinians that feel that way about their club will be very difficult. It's a different animal for them when they're playing for their country. And so, like, now that it looks like he's completed the set, right? Because he's won the Copa America, he's won the World Cup. There's nothing really left for them now apart from ramming it down the Brazilians' throats, which you know will be enough to motivate them always. Yeah. But he's a very, very good defender. And I know we paid a lot of money for him, so it's not as if we got him as a bargain. But for Spurs to go anywhere, he needs to stick around.
Yeah, it's the money doesn't bother me. It's like, I don't know what you think, Craig. It's getting him on the pitch more. I'm not saying he's never fit, and obviously there's a little bit of banter about him being injured before it, but we need him on that pitch, don't we? We've got to get him on the pitch more for Spurs.
But I think that's why he gets the banter we have about Romero and the jibes about him. We need to get him on the pitch more because we know we need him on the pitch because we're a better team when he's on that pitch. Yeah. So we're naturally going to be frustrated when he's not fit. He has had, HG mentioned it, his season this year has not been up to this point as strong. I think, you know, numerous reasons as to why. My hopes for the rest of the season is that, you know, in a couple of weeks when we eventually see him back in a Tottenham shirt, that he has another good run and he gets a run of 10, 12 games under his belt, consecutive games, because we'll be better for it if we do. But yeah, I've got no doubt there's no commitment issues with Romero and Tottenham. You know, there's no doubt in my mind.
That's good. When do you think we'll see him back, James? After the Pompey game?
Probably. It depends how long of a party he goes on. Is it a Maradona length party or is it a normal length party? That's the important question.
Maradona length party was about 45 years.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, we might never see him again. He might disappear in Buenos Aires forever. You know, he might end up working as a bouncer for the clubs. You know, he could definitely do that job. Yeah, hopefully after the Portsmouth game or during that game because I'm going to that, so that'd be nice. Yeah, but as long as he's back for
that long.
I imagine a couple of weeks, right? You know, a couple.
Well, he's going to be given a week, isn't he? So he's going to, in theory, he'll be reporting back this time next week to the club, and then you know Conte will want to do a couple of sessions with him. Probably 10 days, I reckon, if there's not an injury there.
So are we saying he'll be back for the Villa game, New Year's Day?
I think so, 100%.
Yeah.
Like obviously, you're going to go to Argentina to celebrate. You know, I mean, I think we all know that's going to happen. And if you're there, the club will probably say, you know, stay there for Christmas, be with your family. I mean, whoever's around, why not? You missed the Brentford game, but then it's 5 days, 6 days until the next one. So I expect just basically, as Craig said, this time next week, he'll fly back to the UK and get ready for the Villa game.
They are partying, by the way. Just look at Lo Celso's Instagram feed; it's full of it.
Okay.
You should get him home. Tottenham pay his wages. That's it. You had last night, mate. Get yourself back to Spurs now. Get ready for the Brentford game.
It's
no
quite
chance of
interesting.
that.
Just on that, we've talked about Romero coming back, and let's talk about Lloris now. Will Lloris be back in goal for Brentford?
Now, we sort of had this chat the other day, didn't we? And my take on it was, he's only a goalkeeper. They never won. They're not going to celebrate. He could quite easily come back Wednesday, Thursday, train and play. He's been playing and training for the last few days. He could quite, in my opinion, he could be back in goal against Brentford, but I don't think he will be. Craig, tell me your thoughts.
Well, I asked the question, so you guys tell me.
Okay, go swap places, mate. That's my opinion then. Boss.
I think logically I would agree with Gibbo, but Boxing Day is the Brentford game, and Boxing Day is also his birthday.
Oh yeah, let him have his birthday off.
I have a feeling it will be similar, kind of we just give everyone 10 days off, right? So next Wednesday they have to be back, no matter what they're doing.
Yeah. Froze, any?
Oh, crikey!
Yeah, sorry, I went away for a second. Sorry about that.
No, carry on, mate. You're up. You're back. Tell us what you think.
I think 10 days they'll get for whatever reason. And so, Lloris will have his birthday at home with his family. He might even be in London, I don't know, or in France, wherever. But I think the club will just say, 10 days, you missed the Brentford game. Yes, it sucks, but okay, it's one game. And then make sure you're back for the new year.
And James, because I think I think Forster did well against Forest. So if Forster's in goal, it's not I'm not too upset. But what do you think?
No, I think Forster's a solid keeper, actually. I mean, obviously Lloris is a lot better, but I think he's perfectly manageable as a keeper. I mean, obviously, France lost. So I imagine that's had a bit of a toll on Lloris, especially losing in a penalty shootout. And, if other Frenchmen, such as Althusser and Albert Camus, are any reference to go by, when you are upset after a defeat such as that, as a Frenchman, you must spend the week heavily drinking and smoking. I don't know quite much about the smoking part, but I imagine Lloris will probably be going through his family's reserve of wine to get over the loss. So, yeah, we don't need him half drunk for the Brentford game. It's his birthday. Let him have it. Let him have his wine and cheese and stuff. That sounds quite nice, actually.
And then call an Uber.
Take a bit of time. Yeah, call an Uber. Then get him back to Spurs. Conte can tell him to, man up or share the wine. I imagine Conte is quite an enjoyer of red. And come back for the next game. It's fair enough. He's played a lot of football. I get he's a goalkeeper, but also you do have to look after players both physically and mentally. And I get he's the captain. I get he's older, but that's still going to have an effect on you, right? Losing a World Cup final in a penalty shootout as a keeper, and have his birthday, let him, sort his head out a little bit, then come back better, right?
I think he'll play.
I hope you're right, Craig.
Yeah, I'll tell you why I think he'll play.
Go on.
I think he will be offered the time off at the club, the same as I think one thing that Tottenham have done, and they've been consistent, is everyone's got the same time from the point their tournament ended. So the point they come back was that 7 days, and then they come back in. So I think he'll be offered that time. I think, as our captain, he will say, no, I want to come back and play, and he'll come back.
That's the type of shit I'm talking about, Craig. That's what I want.
I might be wrong. And you never know, mate. He may bring Romero with him.
No, mate, no chance. Nah. So, obviously we spoke about those players now. So, HG, drawing this World Cup, which Spurs players do you think have had good tournaments, and which players do you think, never really filled the potential they had? Who did you enjoy watching?
I think Romero has to win this one.
Yeah.
Obviously, not just because he won the tournament, but he did play well. He wasn't a passenger. He wasn't just there, kind of on the bench doing 10 minutes here or there. He was a massive part of the team. Reece, I don't think he had a bad World Cup. I don't think he was amazing, but then I feel like the French side weren't really tested until the final. I don't think England
No.
really tested them. I know that England played well, but I think Lloris had a pretty easy game that day. Outside of that, well, the Welsh boys, let's not talk about that. Who else is left? Højbjerg had a bad tournament because Denmark didn't do very well. Bentancur, Uruguay didn't get out of the group. Like we had a fair few. I mean, Perisic is probably the next one because he got to he got to play 7 games. I mean, like he was there for the entire tournament in effect.
Yeah.
And he scored a really good goal against someone. I forget who it was.
It was a header, wasn't it?
Maybe.
Yeah.
The header. So it's, I don't feel like anyone had a terrible tournament. Even Ben Davies, who obviously plays for Wales, and their results weren't great. I don't feel like Davies played badly despite losing the ball for one of the goals against England. So I'm just happy that it seems as if most of them have come okay out of it. I know Richarlison got injured, but
Couple of good goals. Right? Couple of good goals, HG.
Couple of good goals. I mean, certainly Brazil are better with him in the side than Gabriel Jesus. That's pretty clear now. But I don't know. Like I at no point was I thinking I really want these players to do well because they play for Spurs. I just wanted to see good football, and that meant the better teams going through, generally speaking. But I wasn't watching their games thinking, how is this going to affect Spurs?
Yeah. Craig, for you, obviously Keith's putting here Perisic and Bentancur. I think Perisic showed in that tournament just what a really good professional he is, didn't he? Do you know what I mean? He looks after himself and he just keeps on ticking over, keeps delivering. And I thought Bentancur, even though HG's right, Uruguay didn't make it through, I think he was quite easily the best player for Uruguay, wasn't he?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I read, and I may be wrong, someone in the comments I'm sure will correct me, that Perisic for the Spurs outfield player had more minutes than anyone in this World Cup as an outfield player, I think.
Wow.
Which, considering his age, just shows exactly what he's all about. And the quality in terms of his assists, I think he had a number of assists in this tournament. So I thought he was good. I thought Richarlison, actually, taking away the fact he's injured himself and probably played on in the game when he shouldn't, his goals for Brazil really put him on the world stage in terms of fans sitting up and taking notice of him. I think when he scored those goals for them, 2 goals for Brazil, didn't he get an extra 2 million followers on his Instagram overnight after that goal for Brazil? So I think it's going to be interesting to see Richarlison when he does come back in. Was it 6 weeks he's out? I think. Whether he gets an opportunity in that, leading the line for Spurs, and whether he can replicate some of that form he shows for Brazil for us, because we need it, don't we? We need the alternative. So, but Bentancur, brilliant, as always. Perisic, good. Richarlison, good. I thought Kane had a pretty poor tournament. And by poor tournament, I mean he didn't score the goals that I think we would expect him to score. His assist play, and I had this debate yesterday with a friend.
How dare you?
I know. Well, no, and I mean this. His view was Kane had a bad tournament because he didn't score the goals that people expected of him. And even going in, Kane was saying his target was the Golden Boot, and that he wants to get another Golden Boot, World Cup, blah blah blah. And what I sort of went back to them and said, what you saw from Kane in this World Cup is exactly what we see at Spurs 90% of the time, as in coming back deep, getting the ball, assist, creation. Getting other players on the ball. That's what he does really well. But I thought overall, judging by goals, he probably didn't have his best tournament.
No, I mean, James, you'll be able to... You come in on this one. I think part of it was, obviously I had my say on Kane. I didn't think he played that well. But I think a massive part of that, and I'm talking about I think he got better as the tournament went on. He got better as the games went on. But for me... because of how highly I rate him, the standard I hold him to, that's why I think, that sort of thing is said about him. But, what did you think about Kane's tournament and the other Spurs players in the World Cup?
Well, from the England games I watched, which was the first half of the Wales game before I went off to go see a girl, because I didn't feel like watching the rest of that game in the pub. And I watched all of the England-Senegal game. That game, I thought Kane did quite well.
He was excellent in that game.
I mean, missed a penalty, but still, no other England player scored in that game. So, don't complain, score your own goals. And Kane did score a penalty. And it's against Lloris, right? And you'd think Lloris probably knows Kane's penalties. I mean, Kane missed it, but it happens at times, doesn't it? Messi has missed penalties in finals. It's not, it doesn't disqualify him from being a very good player. If we had a very good game against Senegal, I don't think he was bad. Other Spurs players, watching Wales, Ben Davies was fine for the entire tournament. There were other more egregious errors in that team, and I am talking about Aaron Ramsey being dreadful. I mean, in hindsight, Wales really missed Joe Allen. He was probably one of the better players.
James, right, mate? Sorry, James, to cut in, because obviously you're Welsh. I'm going to bring this in. What I found really hard to watch was Bale. Just like absolutely like a shadow of Gareth Bale, in my opinion.
He had one contribution in the World Cup, and that was a penalty, which he scored, to be fair. He stepped up, but he was not in a lot of these games. He was struggling. I mean, I'd say Brennan Johnson probably had more impact than James did, who were both, I thought, okay. Bale
says it all.
He seemed... Wales couldn't get him into the game. He just never had the ball. You know, he's not a young lad anymore, right? He is 32, and even when he was at Spurs the second time, you've got to get him in positions to have the ball. A bit like Messi, right? I don't think it's an entirely equal comparison at all. But you've kind of got to... In Argentina fashion their team to get the best out of Messi. Wales didn't fashion their team to get the best out of Bale.
Yeah.
And that's why Bale struggled. I mean, Kiefer Moore had more touches in more games.
Big Kiefer Moore.
Who's a good player, right? But that was frustrating. I think those were Wales' 3 worst performances in probably the past 6 years in a World Cup. And that's probably the only time we'll ever see Wales at a World Cup. So, that's fun, lads. That's fun. Back to
Piss take aside, mate. I don't think you will. But I'm just going to put this question to HG. The thing with Bale, HG, I sort of feel that like his choices of how his career has gone in the last 5 years, seeing as everything was really leading up to this World Cup to Bale, I think like the amount of football he's really played, and when he came to Spurs, it was if he didn't really seem that upset that he wasn't playing, and he took that role quite well. And I think the top players you want to see playing all the time. And I just felt like how he's let his career, he's had a great career, but in the past few years, how he's let that sort of go and just played when he sort of felt like it or when he could. And I think it came to a head at this World Cup, and it just looked like a bloke that had been waiting for it for ages, but he was just nowhere near it.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because as much as we remember the goals he scored for Spurs second time around, it does feel like his Real Madrid career ended by scoring those goals in the Champions League final, the overhead kick. Once he fell out with Zidane, it was kind of nowhere else for him to go. But he was on such good money there. Like, I mean, I don't really blame him for hanging around because you never know how long a Real Madrid manager's going to stay. Zidane had obviously left once before. So it was a bit weird, but I guess that, I mean, the hunger went, right?
Yeah.
He proved himself at the highest level, a huge amount of times. He didn't necessarily need to do it week in, week out. Obviously, his family's super important to him. So, I don't hold it against him. I really don't. Real Madrid signed him to that long deal. He was financially set. So, he can then make the choices based on whatever he wants. And if Wales became the most important thing for him, then fair enough. But I don't feel like he was bad for Spurs second time around at all.
No,
I feel like
he scored 15 goals.
Yeah. But I just feel that if he'd have moved on, and I agree with everything you say, HG, like you can't blame him for the money he was on. But Craig, do you get where I'm coming from, where I'm sort of saying, if at that one point he'd have gone, right, this ain't working for me here, I need to go and play football. I want to go and play football. And I think if he'd have played more football then and just kept going, you look at, is he younger? He's younger than Messi and Ronaldo, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I know he's fairly injury prone, but I feel that if he'd have moved somewhere else, got a new challenge, and not thought about the money, and then it might have just carried on, continued, and he got to this World Cup at a point where he was in a better state, and he could have at least sort of finished his playing the World Cup for Wales, which is what he always wanted to do, but been in far better condition and a far better place. That's my point about it. He's a great player.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
I don't disagree. I don't think HG disagrees either. I think the point is he I understand what HG is saying with Madrid. The managers change in the wind, presidents change in the wind, and you can be out of favour 1 minute and back in favour another. So I understood why he wanted to stay, and I think part of his thing with Madrid was the lifestyle, wasn't it? Not just the football, but the overall lifestyle. Golf courses all year round. So I understand why his desire to want to be at Madrid, and I think in hindsight, and I'm sure he would look back in hindsight and say I should have probably left 4 years earlier than he probably did. But he didn't. He made his choices, and it's a shame. It is a shame to see what we saw of him at the World Cup, because pretty much he didn't add anything, did he?
The thing I'll say about Bale with with Madrid is when he scored the free kick against Austria in the World Cup playoffs, I think it was this goal he scored. He ran up to the camera and said, "Suck it," right? He was biting back at the Madrid press's, scandalous attacks at him, basically like the Spanish version of the Sun, right? So bog toilet, fucking toilet paper, and there must be something in him that's pissed off about it. There must be a part of him that thinks maybe I could have gone, right? And he did agree to go at one point, but it was blocked by Perez.
Yeah.
He did try to go. He came to Spurs and he didn't do bad. He scored 15 goals, right? And he was never really picked that much or wanted by Mourinho, and he still scored goals. You think if we had a manager who actually bloody wanted him, maybe he'd have done even better, because he scored more goals than Lucas Moura scores in about a decade. So he can't be that bad. And everyone seems to love Lucas. Every manager we have seems to love Moura. So,
I was going to say managers, not me and HG.
Every manager we've ever had seems to think, Lucas Moura. Do you know what he is? He's the attacking version of Sissoko. He's the attacking version of Musa Sissoko. He can't play football. Sissoko's strong. He's just a bit quick. But for some reason, he stays around forever, and we can't work out why. And they both cost about 30 million. Bale just struggled at the World Cup. A lot of Wales players did. The only ones who really covered themselves in a lot were, I think Kiefer Moore played all right. I think Dan James did. I think Brennan Johnson did. I don't think you can specifically blame it on... I don't think you can specifically say had Bale played more, Wales would have done better, because I don't think that would have been the case. I think the tactics were all wrong. I think it's a coaching issue. I mean, in the second half against the USA, when things were changed up a bit, he did get on the ball more. But it's just one of those things where I think, Rob Page got it all wrong in three games.
I will say, if you look at Bale's career, right, whether it's at Spurs or Wales, he was, at Spurs first time around, he was the best player in the team and everything was set up for him. And at Wales, he was the best player in the team and everything was set up for him. And at Madrid, he was never that man, which I don't think he really wanted to be, right? Because Ronaldo was there the whole time. But when Ronaldo left, there was a bit of a vacuum. Benzema had been there for many years, but Bale could have easily stepped up into that role, had Zidane not been manager, let's say. But I don't think he's ever wanted to have that kind of scrutiny. When you're the best player at Real Madrid, you are watched all the time, 24/7, no matter what you're doing, and you've got to perform week in, week out. And whether it's Wales or Spurs, the pressure is probably less, because as much as we want you to perform week in, week out, and Wales obviously would need him to play well in most games, if it didn't happen, the expectation from the fans wasn't there. At Spurs, we only really had that one season of him, where he was the main man and he was producing week in, week out. But at that point, most Spurs fans were kind of like, is this real? Do we really have the third best player in the world playing for Spurs? Do we have a guy who's scoring goals left, right and centre from all pretty much 25 yards out? He was almost guaranteed to find the back of the net. And I just feel that for Bale, that last little bit of mentality is probably what stopped him from being what ended up being the third best player. Proving he was the third best player in the world. Yeah. Because, when he left Spurs, there was Ronaldo, there was Messi, and then it was who's next? And I think for many Spurs players, Bale had proven himself that he could be that guy, but it never really worked for him. As much as he was really good at Real Madrid, Ronaldo was always that guy, and so it helped that Bale could kind of perform, out of the spotlight. And I think the spotlight is probably the thing that he never really wanted.
Yeah, I agree. HG, I think when he left Spurs, I think he was the third best player in the world. I think he was. But we'll just go on. That's the end of that sort of chat now. But I'd just like to have a little talk about Modric. Fucking what a class act he is, Craig.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unbelievable. An amazing World Cup again, wasn't it, for him? And his career is just... And we talk about two different spectrums in terms of career, or polar opposites in terms of Bale and Modric, and the professionalism and the general way that Modric conducts himself and has kept himself at the top of his game is just awe-inspiring. Do you know what? And he is, when he was, I would argue when he was at Spurs, he was probably the third best player in the world at Spurs as well at that time, in his peak season when he was absolutely unbelievable. Love it, love the man.
Yeah, I mean, he was good at Spurs.
Yeah, he was unbelievable at Spurs.
Yeah, he's unbelievable, but he's got better. I think he was brilliant at Spurs, and it's hard to get. But HG, I think he has got better, hasn't he? He just what a class act. Just watching him play. I love watching good players, and it's not just backwards. He can pass it forward. He can do the sideways and backward shit, but he can knock it forwards as well, and just absolute class act.
I feel like Modric has always known that there are going to be bigger, stronger, more athletic players that he's going to play against. And so whether he was 19 in the Bosnian League or wherever it is, he's had to find a way to survive/thrive and get around those physical disadvantages. And then when you throw in the experience that he's gained from playing top-level football for 15, 20 years, suddenly you see that the World Cup, it doesn't matter that he's got a decade on most of his opponents. He is still smarter than them and knows exactly what to do in every situation. I feel like I appreciate him more now because you see how good he is compared to everyone else. Whereas at Spurs, we knew he was good. He was very good, and that team was very good. They got to the Champions League back in 2010. But I feel like as he's got older, you recognise that other midfielders of his age have fallen away. But Modric is still doing it week in, week out for Real Madrid. Won the La Liga last year. So that to me is probably the biggest compliment you can give him, is that you don't look at him and see a 37-year-old. You look at him and see just someone who's been there, done it, and bought the T-shirt and knows that.
Yeah, James, we're just talking about Modric, mate, and what a great player he is. I mean, you're going to agree, aren't you? The bloke's quality.
Brilliant. Aside from the golden trio of Spanish midfielders, Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, he's the best. He's the best midfielder aside from them of the last 15 years, 20 years. I can't believe he left Spurs at like 26, didn't he? Which seems weird because he's in his late 30s and he's still one of the best midfielders in the world. I think aside from maybe De Bruyne, arguably nearly the best still, which is just mental.
It's just his movement and the way he gets around, isn't it? I mean, I'd defy anybody even if Spurs got the chance to sign him, not people aren't always happy with any signing you have. There's going to be someone who go, oh, he's fucking 37-year-old bloke. But I'd defy any Spurs fan to turn around if we got him back for a couple of seasons and moan about it. I'm sure some would, but yeah, great player.
Dave, he's the epitome. He's the epitome of what Cruyff said about football. Football's a game you play with your head. Your feet are there to help you.
Yeah.
That's what he is. He's remarkable. Probably the best. Yeah. Well, I'm going to say he's the best Croatian player of all time.
Yeah. Well, I think so. So I've just looked through, had a quick glance through the run sheet. And the last talking point from our World Cup is Southgate staying on at England. Now, I don't really want to waste too much time on this. So we're going to go round really quick fire. Craig, you happy Southgate stayed? Yes or no?
Meh.
HG, yes, no, or meh? You're on mute, mate. Go on.
No, yes. I am happy. I am happy.
And right then, James, you?
From an England perspective, definitely.
Yeah,
He lost
you're
to
you're
England.
Welsh, aren't you?
He lost to England before he came in, and before that, you were bottom of a group with Costa Rica in it. I don't think you can really criticise Southgate too much. He's done a very good job for England.
The caveat is, like, before, I think it was in the summer, I wrote a piece basically saying that Southgate needs to go if England want to have any chance of the World Cup, because I was convinced he was wedded to playing three centre backs, and I didn't think that was going to be England's strength. We'd had an awful Nations League. We didn't win a game. We lost 4-0 at home to Hungary. Like, things were looking pretty grim. However, he played four at the back the entire tournament, which I think anyone expected. He picked Maddison, which, although we talked about being probably a good PR move, if nothing else, you like to think that he's going to focus on getting England scoring goals, because I think that's where England's future is. Like, we can talk about, maybe Maguire and Stones aren't the future at centre back, and we've got other players like Tomori or the Paraguay who can come in and maybe do just as good a job. But the England's strength going forward will be going forward. And so the fact that he's turned that around, and Mount is now out the team and Sterling is out the team, and like I can argue about them being first subs. I don't want that either, but I just think that we ended up with an 11 that seemed to function quite well, right? Foden, Kane, and Saka seemed to kind of complement each other. Rice and Henderson with Bellingham seemed to work quite well. We didn't go for it enough against the French, and I regret that, but I don't feel as if. I didn't come out of the tournament thinking that we hadn't given it a pretty good go. And I guess that's all you can really ask for. If he continues with the 4-3-3, then great. But there was no obvious candidate, and I think the players want to keep him around. And if the players are happy, why there's no reason to change it. I don't think so.
No, I'm with you, HG. I put something in our group when we were all talking. People talking about Tuchel and Pochettino and stuff, and I can't see why they'd want to take the England job. I don't think the England job is any longer the job that you can't turn down. But people used to say that, but I think those days are gone. And I agree with you. I think this group of players are probably going to hang around for a little bit. Him and Southgate, they trust him, they respect him, and and he's the same with those players. So when you look around, I think he's probably suited to international management. Like you said, he's changed. He's had a go. He started focusing more on our strengths than our, trying to sort of mask our weaknesses. And you look around and who's.
We don't hate England. I mean, for many years, the England team was kind of like this. We've got some really good players, but we didn't really enjoy watching them. Right, even when you had the golden generation with Gerrard and Lampard and Scholes, like it never felt like a team. It felt like a bunch of individuals who hated each other most of the year and then had to play with each other for England. And Southgate has changed that. And so I do feel like the players are excited to play for England, are excited to be with each other, and I don't really know what Southgate has done to foster that, but clearly it's there. And the only way you're going to have that is if that's there. You're not going to win a tournament if you've got a bunch of individuals trying to play for themselves. I think you can look around world football and you've noticed that, like, it has to be a team environment. The French can win the World Cup doing that way. Argentina, clearly they put the country above everything else. So even though English players don't have that love of playing for England, and there are plenty of reasons as to why, I don't blame them at all. But I do feel that, like, having Southgate as this kind of figurehead, like, Kane might be the captain of England, but I don't feel, like, at least maybe as a Spurs fan it's slightly different, but I don't look at England and think Kane is the figurehead of England. I think it's clearly Southgate, and I find that again we don't have a world-class player that wants to be in the spotlight as much. Like, even Foden is very much part of the team at Man City. And I feel like that's going to help England going forward. So, Southgate, we all know that there are limitations there. But if anyone's going to get the most out of the players that he has, it looks like Southgate might do that. I think 3 months ago, I was all for getting rid of him, and I wouldn't have cared who you brought in. But I do feel as if that he's changed his mind on a few things. I know Keith in the comments said that it was the criticism that's done it. Well, brilliant, because England are a decent side going forward, And if you can score more goals than the opponent, then that will be enough. Like, it's not
Yeah.
about making sure you don't concede.
I think at international level, every manager has weaknesses because that's not where top managers go, is it? Right? I
Not
mean, aside
anymore.
from Conte for Italy, which I think maybe Mancini for Italy, so Italy are a weird exception. You know, it's different. It's where arguably second-rate managers go or older managers go. My earliest enduring memories of England are the 2010 World Cup, where, I mean, Lampard got robbed to the Germans. But aside from that, it was watching England and everyone thinking, oh, you know, England are crap, they're going to lose. And now, and one of the earliest memories I properly have of a tournament, you know, watching every game and being old enough to be cognitive of it, was the 2016 Euros, which was brilliant because Wales were brilliant. But it was losing to Iceland, and then a bunch of stuff happens with Allardyce or whatever. And then the next tournament I watched, England were quite good. And Wales weren't now. I was watching England the entire time. I was thinking, crikey, England are good, aren't they? And it was the next one, it's the 2020 Euros, 2021 Euros. And England got to a final. I just think something has changed in the mentality of people in the country where it's not just, oh, everyone's negative, thinking England are dreadful. People now expect England to get to semi-finals and finals. And I think, well, this is a pretty rapid mentality shift. It's like being a bottom tier League One team to expecting your team to be fine for the Premier League in the span of a couple of years, you know? So Southgate's obviously done something for the mentality of the team. And maybe it's the players that have come in, they're more professional, they're less petty, they're not shagging each other's wives. You know, that's probably
Always
helped as
helps.
well. That's probably helping out a little bit, or if they are, they're keeping it quiet. That also helps, you know. But Southgate has obviously done something brilliant for the mentality. And who would England bring in anyway? You know, why would Pochettino want the England job? If he wants to take international management job, he'd go to Argentina. You know, why would Tuchel want the England job?
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
So who's going to come in who has the same respect from England players, from everyone at the FA, from a lot of people in the country? You know, who's going to come in? Every international manager, every international manager has limitations. They're not A-list managers. Pep Guardiola isn't going to go, right, England job, I fancy that, right? You know, so you take the limitations. The most important thing is, do they have the respect of the players? Do they put out a pretty decent team? And do they seem to kind of have a plan? And if they do, they're a good international manager. That's what international management mostly is, you know? You don't get the top elite managers doing that. And the thing is, there aren't any top English managers. They're only half decent ones. The best one's probably Eddie Howe. And he's doing something with the Saudi Arabians at Newcastle. So who would England get?
I think, for what it's worth, I know we don't want to take too much on this. I think there's any decent manager, whatever you class as an international manager, would have matched the results we got, what Southgate got in this tournament. I don't think if you look at the teams we played and the run we had to get to the quarterfinals, there was no one we come up against where you think, right, you know, Southgate's tactical astuteness or the way that he's motivated the team got us over the line in that particular game and got us that point or that win. You know, it was a pretty standard run to get to the quarterfinals. And don't get me wrong, the French quarterfinal was a fantastic game, and we played well, and we was unlucky, and it could have equally gone the other way with referee decisions and everything else. But I don't think Southgate's done anything which another manager, whichever manager you say, what could have done if he was in this position for this World Cup. What I would like to see from Southgate moving forward, because he is going to take us into the Euros, I think HG, Gibbo James, you're right about he's being more attacking, but his in-game management needs to improve. And I think he needs to be bolder and braver.
Yeah,
braver.
100%.
Like look at the French game, for example. I think he could have reacted a lot differently, a lot earlier than what he did. So that's what I want to see moving forward.
Yeah.
But I don't think we should be saying, for me anyway, I don't see Southgate as the only man that can lead England. He had to make the decision to leave. You know, the FA were never going to get rid. No. And he would have been crazy if he left this job, wouldn't he? He would have been, because where would he have gone next?
Just failure for him, where, you know, it'd been a tough gig. But I've got to say, let's knock international football and England on the head. And let's talk about what we've all come back for. Spurs. Spurs are back next week, Boxing Day, Brentford away. HG, what are we thinking then? Spurs are back. What are we thinking is going to happen? Players coming back from the World Cup, some left at the lodge. How are we seeing this all going? Are we gonna be buzzing? And then Boxing Day afternoon, we're gonna be like, oh fuck me, here we go again. Or do you think no, this is it? They're gonna come back. Conte's drilling them onwards and upwards now. Let me know your thoughts. Come on.
But poor first half, amazing second half.
Please
We're
don't.
going to continue with that.
No, come on.
No, but again, we don't really know who's going to be available, but it's pretty much going to be a similar strength team to what we've had beforehand. So it's going to be a question of mentality and can we get out there and start from the first minute. We know Brentford will be up for it. Again, it's a home game against a bigger team. The game there last season was pretty boring and they got a 0-0, but on TV, you know that Brentford will see it as they did last season with Arsenal. First game of the season, they went out and beat them. We're going to have to be on our best to beat Brentford. But it is weird because we've got we've had the half a friendly against Motherwell that no one watched, and then we've got the game midweek against Nice, which maybe a few more people will watch to see kind of where Spurs might be. But I feel like with Tottenham, and it's going to be like this for most of the season. If we play well, we will win. But can we get a front three functioning? Can we get Son into the game? Because for the first half of the season, we didn't see him, and when we did see him, it was not pretty. So I don't really know what to expect. I just know whatever 11 goes out there, even if it's without Romero or Lloris or Kane or whoever, it's still good enough to get the job done. And so that's going to be my main focus is, we talked with Southgate, are Spurs getting the best out of their players? And if they are, we'll win the game because our players are better than Brentford's. I do believe that.
Yeah. Craig, tell me I'm not going to have to watch turgid first half performances and throw my toys out the pram. Tell me it's gonna be all right. Come on, convince me now.
I don't think I can convince you, Gibbo. That's the problem. I don't think I believe it myself. I think you. I just like HG. I just don't know what to expect from Tottenham. It's so weird to have this break in the way that we've had it with this World Cup in the middle, and it feels like we're in this mini pre-season again. And I just don't know what they're working on. Is our performances in the first half this season linked to players going to the World Cup and perhaps being a little bit reserved in terms of their energy levels or willing to die for the cause? I don't know. Are we going to see Tottenham go out with an amazing first 45 and a blistering second 45 and blow Brentford away 5 or 6? It'd be amazing to see it, but I doubt it. Yeah, I don't think that would be the case. I do think. Overall, if you want my view, Gibbo, to convince you there's things to look forward to, I do think we're going to have a good second half to the season. I really think we're going to have a good second half of the season. I think January is going to be a struggle. We talked about it previously. It's going to be a hard January, tough month for us. If we can get through that, even with one defeat or a defeat and a draw out of that month, I'm sure we'll get the fixtures up in a minute. Then it's been a good month and we'll crack on. But I've got a lot of confidence for the second half of the season. I just don't know what the performance is going to be like. One thing's for sure, I think my view is we'll still have Royale playing at right wing back.
Oh, I was just gonna go to James, and I was gonna go, James, tell me we're not gonna have to watch turgid first halves. Tell me I'm not gonna see Emerson Royale playing right wing back every week. And obviously, you've just told me that's what's going to happen. James, cheer me up. What are we going to see second half of the season?
Well, I've seen one big issue of our Boxing Day fixture immediately.
Oh, go on.
It's at 12:30, which means I won't be drunk by the time it starts.
Never mind.
Funnily enough, I'm going to my
never
aunt's
say never,
for boxing.
James. Come on.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I
James,
can get if I wake up and I crack open the JD, I'm sure I can manage it. Wake up at 10. Neck back a hip flask, I'll be good to go. Well, funnily enough, I'm going to my aunt's on Boxing Day, and she asked what I wanted for Christmas about a month ago, and I just said, I don't know, wine. So hopefully I'm going to get about 12 nice bottles of wine for Boxing Day, and I can start working through those. So that'll be
box. You're a student. You're going to get a box of wine, and you're going to be grateful.
No. I'm very specific. I won't drink cheap wine. It has to be. It has to be nice. Otherwise, I just drink beer or whiskey. No. If I'm drinking red, it has to be. If it's French, it has to be Bordeaux wine. Otherwise, it has to be
What's
Spanish.
going on here?
Anyway, right.
James, tell me I'm going to watch. Tell me I'm going to watch fast, free-flowing, attacking football.
Some of the players
Brentford.
have stayed. Some of the players have stayed at the lodge with Conte, and I'm sure Conte's been, like an army drill sergeant, psychologically breaking them down and rebuilding them. Right? So it's going to be brilliant. It's going to be fantastic because if it isn't, I don't want to have to talk to family members on Boxing Day, right? That's not what Boxing Day is about. Boxing Day is about football. And I want to be able to watch Spurs play brilliantly on Boxing Day. So it's going to be fine, because if we're not good, we can all get drunk. Aside from HG, who doesn't drink. So, there's no win for you here, HG, sadly. But no, I think we'll be all right, actually. Because the players who have played the World Cup but will come back and play, well, they've still played football. And you know what? If we go 2-0 down, we'll probably win 4-2, won't we? So I believe either way. If we go 2-0 down at half time, then I'm more optimistic we'll win than had we started the game and gone 1-0
So James,
up.
what you've just confirmed to Gibbo is going to be a turgid first.
It's going to be the same. Yeah, more of the same.
Mate, spend the first half just, pottering around the house or whoever's house you're going to for Boxing Day. Then tune into the second half because it'll be a brilliant comeback, most probably. Or we'll win comfortably. I don't think we'll lose. We'll either go 2-0 down and win 3-2, or we'll win a game normally, which I don't think I've seen Spurs win a game normally in a while. Can we do that? Can we just win a game 2-0? Because last I checked, we had to win in the 97th minute.
HG, tell me when I'm going to see this front foot football again. I've been waiting for a few years now. Am I going to get? I'm not going to. You don't think I'm going to get to see it second half of the season?
Front foot football, get
on the front foot.
I've never felt.
We're Tottenham Hotspur. Well, come on.
It's weird. I've never felt as if Conte was a massively counter-attacking manager, because even when he won the league at Chelsea, I never thought that Chelsea side were counter-attacking. No. I think that we can sit here and say the first half of the season we had so many games and we were kind of managing things, and I think we came up with this idea that maybe Spurs were trying to keep it tight and then go for it in the second half of games, because that was the only logical thing we could think of, to the fact that we were consistently poor first half and then much better second. I mean, looking at the results, before, you're right, we beat Everton at home 2-0. That was a relatively comfortable game.
Yeah.
But everything else, Bournemouth was 3-2, winning at Marseille with the last kick of the game. It's going to be weird. But I do feel that Kulusevski makes it easier for us to hold the ball up. If Richarlison had been fit, the idea of Richarlison, Kane and Kulusevski as a front three would have been really nice, no matter what system we were playing. But getting Son involved in those moves is going to be crucial. And so I don't want to sit here and say we'll see more of the same, but I don't see any reason to think otherwise apart from Kulusevski going on a tear. Like I've said previously, that Kulusevski and Doherty work really well together. If we see that might help us. But if Emerson is behind him, I think we know where that's going. So yeah, it's going to be rough. But I don't think that we'll be losing games. It's just a question of, are we exciting? And that I guess the jury is out a little bit.
We're not going to be as exciting as I want, HG, are we? We're not going to be as exciting.
Well, what do you want? Do you want prime Ginola? Like, what kind of? Do you want end of last season? Because we were pretty.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want end of last season. Yeah, I want end of last season. Hang on, James. Before big up to Ross, new member, came a YouTube member. Yeah. Keep tuning in, Ross. Good to see you on here, mate.
Go on, James. Is Son struggled at the beginning of the season, then he got dropped for the Leicester game, then he came in and scored a hat-trick. I almost wonder if some time away from Spurs, playing for Korea, him coming back, maybe that'll help him a bit. Maybe that's helped him. He's had a bit of time away and he's come back. Hopefully he's refreshed a bit. Maybe he will come back in. Maybe he'll be back in that form we know he can hit. And if he can come, even 80% of his form, we'll be a lot better, right?
Yeah.
So I have a bit of belief that he'll come back and be better than he has been so far this season. Kulusevski's going to be brilliant as ever. So there are reasons to be optimistic as long as Emerson Royale doesn't start. I mean, if Emerson Royale starts, I might
He's
have to
starting,
start
mate.
drinking the whiskey. Well, I might have to start with the hard liquor early in the morning if that's happening. But
he spent a month at the lodge, mate, being drilled by Conte.
Well, so has Matt Doherty. So has Matt
Can we stop
Doherty.
using that term?
But
dirty-minded.
mate, I got a feeling, Craig. I don't know what you think. I've got a feeling Doherty will start left wing back. But I agree with what HG said and James. I mean, the football I was talking about at the end of last season, a massive part of that was how good Kulusevski was and how good Son was at the time. So we need to get Son back firing, don't we? Because I think that's what we've missed, really. You know, like these performances where we've been poor. And we've not been able to rely on Son as we did at the end of last season because he hasn't really had that energy or he hasn't really been playing well. So we need him back on it, don't we? Kulusevski, who we chose to drop for 3 or 4 weeks in that season, at the half of the season that's just gone. We need them firing, but I think we are going to have Emerson on the right. But I think Doherty's going to. I think he could be starting on the left. What do you reckon?
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with what you've just said. I think Kulu is more important coming back and getting him fit as well for the second half of the season because of everything that he gives to our game, as HG's alluded to. And I think if we can get Kulu consistently fit on that right-hand side, Kane and then Son, like you say, back in form, we've got a good chance because that front three, as we've talked about many a time, it's better than most front threes in the league. You wouldn't put many other players in there, would you, over and above them? So,
arguably the best on form, Craig. Arguably the best on form.
Yeah, I think so. So it's we've got lots to be positive about the second half of the season. As I've said, I think we'll do well. I think there's a few. This second half of the season, there's a couple of things for me. One, it's what can we get the best out of that front three, and can we get Son back on form, keep Kulu fit? I think that's going to be critical. Second is really bringing in 1 or 2 good players in January to strengthen, particularly our back line defensively. I think that's critical.
Hang on, we'll come on to that. Don't get everybody all excited talking transfers, Craig. We're gonna come on to that, but yeah,
I didn't say any names.
Oh, that's it. With the HG, who do you think is going to be starting left wing back, Cesspit or Doherty? If Perisic went back,
I think. Yeah, I mean, it's a terrible nickname, but I do quite like it. I think Sessegnon will start. I do. It would be like, although I think Doherty probably should, it would just seem very unlike Conte to change his mind on this. Like Doherty could have played left wing back for most of the early part of the season, and he didn't. He could have played right wing back, and he didn't really get involved. So although we've seen him do it a couple of times obviously in the friendly game against Motherwell, and we may see it again against Nice, I don't know. It would be surprising to me because I feel like, as much as I don't particularly rate Sessegnon, he or Perisic isn't the issue. The issue is on the other side.
Yeah.
And so it's I don't know. Like I want to believe that Conte will see it, right, and he'll realise that Doherty is a better fit for us going forward, because going forward is kind of the issue. I think wherever our back five is, whether it's 2 central midfielders plus the back 3, it's a pretty solid unit. Whether it's Bissouma, because obviously Bentancur is suspended, our back 3, like even if Romero's not there, like we ended the season last season with 3 clean sheets, and Sanchez was part of that in every single one. So like I don't feel like that's the issue. I think the issue is, how do we get better going forward? How do we get more from our wing backs? And so, yeah, it's the same conversation we had 6 months ago.
Spend a few quid.
Were kind of the issue. Can we find the right balance?
Yeah. James, I mean, obviously we spoke about the wing backs, but Bentancur is injured. Not sure if he'll be back for the Villa game, but I'm hoping he will be. But Bissouma coming in, that'll be good to see, won't it? Bissouma get a little run in the team, see what he can do.
Yeah, I think we all agree he's very good, right? The thing is, we have 4 excellent midfielders. Even if Bentancur is out, even if Bissouma doesn't come in, Skip's brilliant. I think we all agree that. But yeah, it'd be nice to see Basuma get a run of games because he offers something a little bit different. I think he's a little bit more progressive with the ball. Maybe not the Benteke, but certainly than Højbjerg. I don't really see any issues with our midfield too, even if one of them's out. Hell, even if two of them are out, even if our first two are out, I look at Basuma and Skip and think, well, that's a very good midfield, combination, right? So I'm not too worried there. It's the fullbacks I'm worried about. I see. It's looking at the lineup on Boxing Day at 11:30 and seeing Forster, Emerson Royale, and Davinson Sanchez. That's the thing that's going to make me reach.
Why are you going to upset me? What are you going to go upset me?
I'm preparing you, Gibbo. I'm preparing you for reality. That's what you're going to see. That's the first thing you're going to see at 11:30. That's going to be the Premier League coming back. That's what you're going to see. But we're still going to beat Brentford. Despite that, we're still going to beat Brentford. And Sessegnon will play on the left.
So we'll be doing a Brentford review on Friday. So quick fire then, James. Who are the starting wing backs against Brentford?
Emerson Royale and Sess.
HG, you agree?
That, isn't it?
If we play 3-4-3, yes, because we haven't talked about the 3-5-2. We played quite a bit, but if we play 3-4-3, then yes, those two, same as James.
Craig, what are you going for the wing backs?
Royale and Doherty.
Yeah. Oh. So as
this is what I think Conte will do. This is not what I would do.
Yeah.
I want to get that out there. Like, I do not want to see Emerson Royale playing at right wing back, at left wing back, anywhere on the pitch, really. But
left back in the changing rooms.
I think.
So Craig,
not going to change it.
As HG just said, then what do you think we're going to go 3-4-3? Do you think we're going to go 3-5-2, or do you think he's going to throw a spanner out there and we'll play 4-2-3-1? What do you reckon?
No, we'll play three. We'll play three at the back. That's guaranteed. I don't know whether I suspect his history tells us he'll go 4. He'll play 3-4-3,
especially with Bentancur out.
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, he's got the personnel to go to play, even with Bentancur out. He's got the personnel to go with 3 in the middle, hasn't he? Because we've got the depth in that area of the pitch. But yeah, that for me is I don't know which way he'll go. I personally would, if it was me and my choice, what I would like to see him do, it would be Højbjerg and
Basuma.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what he'll do, HG?
3-4-3. I do think 3-4-3 is where it'll go. Like, we're all assuming that Kane's going to play.
Definitely.
Come back from. So, like, it's Kane. If Kulusevski's fit, Kulusevski starts. I think we all want to see that. I think Conte now realizes that Kulusevski is a massive part of our best 11.
Yeah. Son
so
starts.
then, obviously, if Son's fit, Son's going to start as well. Like, as much as we can sit there and make a claim that maybe Kulusevski and Son would be a decent front two if Kane can't play or whatever. We've got 5 days between the Brentford game and the one after. Like, as much as January is an important month, we're not playing every 3 days for most of it.
Yeah,
which is obviously going to help Spurs. So we've got 5 days between the first two, a short gap, but then the Portsmouth game where you like to think that we can maybe change things up a little bit, and then it's 8 days before the North London derby. So I'm not so stressed about the workload as I was, before the World Cup.
Yeah, Lenglet, Oilrig, and Sanchez back 3.
Like, if Romero's not playing, the best 3 we have would be Dyer on the right hand side, Lenglet in the middle, and Davies on the left hand side.
Davis is Davis injured? Did he get injured in the World Cup?
I don't think so. I mean,
James?
I haven't read too much about it.
I think
you're the inside man.
It looked as if he had. This was a while ago, and there's been quite a lot of drinking since then. So I think at one point it looked like he'd taken a little knock, but that was a while ago, unfortunately. Well, fortunately and unfortunately, because Wales should have won the World Cup. But I think he's fine. If he's not fit, then Sanchez will play and Lenglet will play on the left. But I think Davies on left, Lenglet in the middle, and Dyer on the right is perfectly serviceable as a back 3 against Brentford.
Perfect. I love perfectly serviceable players. Perfectly serviceable right wing backs. That the music to my ears.
Emerson Royale is not a perfectly serviceable right wing back.
Right. So look, there's going to be a big more in-depth show on Friday about Brentford. We're all looking forward to Spurs going for, what we're going to do. We all seem to be fairly positive. Now, the key to that is January transfers, as Craig was going on about. So, Craig, you can expand on that now. So, coming to January, what do you obviously? I'm saying obviously because everybody will say the same sort of thing. But what do you think we need to do, and what do you think will happen? But a shortened version, not really short, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Very quickly. I think a lot of it will come down to what Conte and Paratici want to do on that right wing back. If they're not going to give Spence the opportunity this season, I think he needs to go out on loan. I think if that's what they're not going to give him the opportunity, and then if that's the case, we need to bring someone into that right wing back who's going to be more than perfectly serviceable in that right wing back position, and probably means this is the critical bit. It really means either one of Royale or Doherty will probably need to leave in Jan to make that happen. That's my quick short of January transfer window. That's what I think is really critical for us.
But do you think like what we're bringing? When I say what do you think we'll bring in? Do you think that'll be it? Do you think we'll just go for a right wing back, and if we get one in, that'll be it?
I think that's our big. That for me, that's our number one position, and I think if we can strengthen there, I think we should. I think we'll get two. I like to think we'll get two, just because it's it'd be nice to get two. But I think certainly we've got to do better. We're not going to do anything at left wing back, are we? Because we know we've got Destiny coming in the summer. So there's nothing going to happen there. So it's going to be that right wing back. And if a centre back comes available that's a top target and it's available in January, I think they might go for that as well.
Okay, that's good. HG, what do you think we need to do? And what do you think Spurs will probably do? Always fun. This,
I don't think Spurs will do too much unless they can get players out, right? I know we talked about this before, like with Brian. I think there's a link today that he might go off to Mallorca.
So I think
Spurs are clearly looking to shift a couple, and if we do that, then we've got space for a couple to bring in, because I think we were at the limit with squad numbers in the first half of the season. I would like to see Spence given a chance at least before we ship him out. I don't know where that would be, whether it's the Pompey game or whatever, but I think that would be a key opportunity for him, and if he takes it, then you never know. I agree with Craig that centre back. There's a number of centre backs that Spurs might be looking at in the summer. That if we can grease a few palms and make sure that happens in January, that could help us out. But I think if we were to do that, then someone like Sanchez is probably going to go.
Yeah,
and so it's all a bit, like who, because unfortunately the people that we might want to let go, such as Brian, Brian doesn't count towards our Premier League squad because he's still under 21. He still counts as being under 21, so it does limit us a little bit. But if Sanchez was to go, I don't think any of us would complain, and what we do, but. To me, it's about using what we have to the best of our ability, and I don't think we really did that in the first half of the season. I think although we're fourth, there are a number of things that we could have probably done differently to maybe get a bit higher up the table. So yeah, it's rough, but I don't. It's not like last January when we could see we need someone to do this and we need someone, and Bentancur came in and Kulusevski came in and they improved the team from day one. I'd be surprised if Spurs were able to do that. If we can do it, it'll be at centre half. I don't think we're going to get a wing back in January. As much as I might want to see it, I'm not sure we will.
Nah.
If Spence doesn't play in the cup, does he go? Does he go in January for you on loan?
Yeah,
he should do.
Because he's not thinking for himself. He's not going to play for Spurs if he doesn't play in that game. Yeah. And unfortunately, like with Emerson and if Doherty's not playing left wing back at some point, Doherty will play ahead of Spence. Yeah. But I just think that for Spurs as a unit to actually be a bigger threat going forward, we're going to need to have Spence in it at various points of the season. Like I think when I started to plan the season early on, I thought like Spence is a really good option off the bench because if you need something different, he can provide it. Whether it's Doherty who started or Emerson or whoever, that actually Spence was the logical sub to come on and maybe do something a bit different. We didn't see it. And so
No.
if we're not going to see it in the second half of the season, for everyone concerned, he just needs to go and play somewhere. But there is, I mean, I think we're all in agreement here. We would much rather see Doherty and Spence play than Emerson. There are times for Emerson for sure, but I don't think that any of us are thinking, this is the guy we want to be seeing 80% of the time. And I think if Spence was to come in and prove that he was capable of doing more than what we've seen, that we'd all be thinking great, because we know it's such a vital part of what Conte wants to do, and we do have someone, and we just don't know enough about him to know whether he can do it or not.
And I think I want to put this out there, right? The Emerson thing, we all have a little laugh and a joke. But I think a few of us, people who are on this panel tonight, I think it was sort of getting to a point with Emerson where he needed taken out of the firing line, didn't he? Because the crowd were getting on his back. The media were sort of jumping on the fact that he's shit and the Spurs fans don't like him. And I think he just sort of needed protecting. And it was if all these things that were going on were affecting his performances. So, hopefully, if he is playing, he can sort of forget about that and he can do all right. Because the Spurs fans did get behind him a bit when he started playing a little bit better. But then obviously things went back to how they were, and then it just got worse. The crowd got on his back. But I'm going to obviously go on, Craig. Carry on.
I was just going to say the World Cup break's come at a good time, hasn't it, from that perspective? Because
he was getting on
the heat out. It's taken the heat out of the situation, which in many ways doesn't help the cause we would like to see of someone else in that position, because it's given that break. The 5 breaks happened, and Conte's going to put him straight back in.
We think.
That's my prediction. Yeah.
I've seen some painful news for us Spurs fans relating to Emerson Royale on Twitter. Apparently, Inter Milan are interested in him, which is, dreadful, because we want to hold on to our best players like Emerson Royale. So, only 45, 50 million Inter, you can have him for that. You can also have this bloke we've got in Italy, we've loaned out to Italy at the moment, Harry Winks. He's brilliant. He's the English Iniesta. Both of them, 100 mil. Yeah.
Harry Winks has been the best player in every game he's played.
Has he even played? Has he?
No, of course not. But it still works.
Brilliant. Yeah. We've also got this guy called Pongi and Dombele. You want to sign him as well.
I've got a feeling we could actually be moving him on. He's doing all right in Napoli. But James, I was just going to come to you about what we're going to sign in January. But I was going to caveat that we're saying, between Christmas and New Year, me and James are hoping to do a big transfer show where we will just talk about players that are linked with Spurs. I've been sending James players every player I've seen us linked to, I've sent to James, and he's going to try and pick the bones out of it and pick stats against the players we've got, and we'll have a chat about it and just have a big old transfer tittle tattle show, won't we, James? So we'll put that out there. But James, James. In just a shortened version, do you think we'll get many in? Do you think we'll get 1 or 2 in? Or do you think, and if we do, where do you think we're going to get them?
I think it'll definitely be 1 or 2. I think it's going to be a bit more of an opportunistic transfer window. It's going to be a case of, we can get this guy in. I think obviously the obvious positions for improvement are centre back and wing back. But if it's a case of, this guy is a more creative midfielder or a winger, and we can get him, you don't say no, do you? I think that's what January usually is. So I think it might be more of one of those windows. But again, if we can shift someone on for decent money, then I can see us going a bit bigger at centre-back or wing-back. I think even if we don't shift anyone on, I can see us bringing in a couple in, even if they're just younger guys we send out on loan. What I'd like to see is very much we just turn around and said, look, we're going to try solve one position now, even if that means we bring in one guy. If we turn around and we spend the money on a Maddison or something, I'd much rather we tried and solved one position. Not Maddison necessarily, but that type of player, that caliber of player, you know what I mean? But I think it's going to be a lot of Paratici signings, as it always is, Guys we may not have heard tons about, but coming in are quite good.
Yeah, I think that is the position I think if we get one in, I think that's where it's going to be. I think it's going to be a more creative option, somebody a bit closer in quality to like a Kulusevski or maybe a Son out wide, and maybe closer to Richarlison, Kulusevski, Son in those sorts of positions. Someone who's a little bit more creative than the players we've got already, like Lucas and Brian, but closer to a bit better in quality. I think that's where we will improve. I mean, do you agree with that, HG? Do you think that? Because that's where I can see him. I can't see him solving the big issues we've got, but I think I can see him doing that so they can maybe protect those players a little bit more.
I mean, I know we've heard of rumours about Malinovsky coming. Again, it's that kind of 6 months left on his deal. If we were to swap him for Lucas, none of us would complain.
Oh God, right?
No! Like Lucas has got to the point where we'd be like, you know what, we'll give anything else a go. I don't think any of us are particularly bothered about whether he stays or not. So you're right. There are a couple of sideways moves where you hope you get something. You hope you find a gem, someone who's going to come in and not just do a job, but actually be very good for us.
Yeah.
But again, like Malinovsky, we're going to have to probably sign him to a relatively long-term deal. Right, like I think he's 29 now. He's going to want probably 3.5 years if he can get it.
Yeah,
and there's a risk there because you just don't know. And so it may well be that they decide, we'll try and do the whole loan to buy business that we did with Kulusevski. That seems to be the way that Paratici wants to work things. So it'll be a case of if clubs really want rid, then the loan to buy doesn't work with Malinovsky because Atalanta will be like, well, no, you just buy him. Like, there's
he's
no point
running out of contract, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. There's no point loaning him if he's out of contract in 6 months, right? Like, you either now or you wait 6 months, pretty much. But there are players out there. I mean, there are clearly players out there who are not wanted by their current clubs that could easily come in and do something different for Spurs.
Yeah.
But I do trust Paratici to know where those players are. I think those of us that have seen Destiny play for Udinese since we announced the signing have been pretty excited that he's going to come in and be something better than what we have. There are surely other players in Serie A, even ones we don't know, like outside of the Skriniars and the De Vries and the other centre-backs that we know of. There are going to be other people out there that maybe Spurs are thinking, we can do something here. Rightly or wrongly, the Premier League is still the league with the most money. We are not as bothered with the whole COVID thing anymore. Other leagues are dealing with those issues, and Spurs, given especially its relative strength within the UK, within English football, are in a prime position to strike. So, I suppose nothing is off the table, but as we all know with Spurs, it will be probably quite quiet and a couple in and a couple out, and nothing too extreme.
Because I think Brian, like obviously we've had that link HG about Brian going, and I think the writing's on the wall for Lucas now. I think if he doesn't go in January, I think he will go at the end of the season. I think like his time has been and gone now.
Lucas is looking for one last deal.
Yeah.
Right? No matter where it is, that's what he's looking for. It's the same with when Vertonghen got 3 years with Benfica. Spurs were never going to give him 3 years. He got 3 years in Portugal. He left after 2 and went back to Belgium. But that's what Lucas is probably looking for. He's 31 in the summer. So, if he can get some kind of deal in the sunshine, playing, relatively regularly for a team that, is not really challenging, I think he'll take it. I think he wants to play. I mean, that is the good thing about Lucas. He's not really there to sit on the bench. He does want to play games. But I think he came out and gave an interview a few months ago where he was planning ahead and seeing that Spurs weren't going to be the club where he was going to finish his career. And so if we can find someone, then great. But there's no team that's going to offer a buttload of money for him, or even a significant amount. They'll be looking to do what Spurs are trying to do, and it'll be we'll take him off your hands and go from there. And maybe Spurs will have to let him go for very little. But that's what Paratici is paid lots of money to do, and we'll see what he comes up with.
Yeah, Craig, can you see that? Like I think we'll just get someone in there, to cover those attacking roles.
But yeah, I think if the right deal comes up, I think that's what it comes down to, doesn't it? It's having the right deal. So I don't. Yeah, I don't know who the players are. I like to think I trust in Paratici that they've got a plan. That's the difference. I think I've said this to you before, haven't I? I've got faith
Yeah.
now that we've got a transfer plan. There's a strategy there, and I think that the method, the view will be, and I'm sure we'll hear this line from Paratici that if the right player comes up and it presents the right opportunity to improve the squad, they'll do it. But yeah, I don't have a foggy who those players are. I think like HG said, I really think it's about moving players on as well. We've got such a bloated squad, not only in terms of the current Premier League squad, but also those players we've got out on loan at the moment. In those positions, arguably, you talk about Ndombele, the Celso, for example. I know you've said he's having an okay season at Napoli, but we need to be moving. Nose on Winks needs to be moved on. Roden will probably get sold anyway, wouldn't he? I think they'll take up the option on Roden. I think that's going to be the key thing for me. Tanganga, yeah, we've got to move these players on so we can create the space to bring other players in.
Yeah, I mean, for me,
and the money.
we got to be looking at getting the likes of Mbappe and Bellingham signed up, haven't we? You know, Chelsea has signed Nkunku, and we've done nothing. So we've got to be getting these, great,
What about
talents
that
in.
bloke who played for Argentina at the World Cup? This Lionel Messi guy.
Get him in.
Apparently, he's 35, but I reckon he could do a job for us. Look, he's won everything.
Levy, get your checkbook out.
Look, heard it. His next challenge could be winning Spurs the league. He's got to be up for that, hasn't he? Come on, that'd prove he's the greatest of all time.
Right, so before we sort of knock it on the head, then we've had a little chat about everything. We've slid nicely back into talking about Spurs. Should we have a quick? Should we have some predictions for the Brentford game? Fancy throwing a few predictions out there? Right, James, come on then.
3-2, Spurs.
Yeah. Goal scorers. Give us a goal scorer or two.
Kane, Sessegnon, and Son.
HG. Let's have a prediction. Come on.
2-1.
Don't
Spurs.
like predict. Yeah.
2-1 Spurs. Yeah.
Any predictions of how the game will pan out, or what do you think will happen?
Brentford will go 1-0 up. We'll play terrible in the first half, and then in the second half we turn it around by doing nothing particularly different, just actually trying.
Up in the tempo.
I think Kane will end up with a penalty, just to kind of get back into things. It's probably his first goal for Spurs will almost certainly be a penalty after what happened playing for England. And can we look past Pierre? I mean, I want Kulusevski to score every goal because I just love him so much, but he's not a goal scorer. He's that creator. So if Kane and Son can get the two, we'll be laughing.
Craig, come on then.
3-1 Spurs, and the scorers will be Dyer will score, Davis will score, and Royale will score.
Behave. Winding us up now. Hey, who cares? If that happens, I'm fine with that.
No, 3-1. I generally think that Dyer will score. I don't. Well, one of the centre backs will score, but it'll be 3-1.
I want Spurs to save the goal. I'm going to go 1-0. 1-0. I don't care who scores their own goal. I want Spurs to save the goals for New Year's Day. Villa at home. I want us to go out there and give them a good tonking. Harry Kane to get back in front of the Spurs fans. Spurs fans will be cheering for him because he missed that penalty. Yeah. And he goes out and smashes an hat-trick against the Villa, especially against Martinez. A couple of penalties so that Martinez can't come out giving it all this. I smashed it straight in the top corner. Give them a good hammering.
I think what's more important is we win. However we win, we win. We've got to get back on that winning train, haven't we? Right from the start. Get the momentum back on.
Yeah.
Can you
I don't care as long as we win. What games do you all from that?
Yeah, just that first match day back, because obviously I know we're first up.
Here we go.
But yeah, I mean, like the teams around us, like Newcastle travelling to Leicester is a big game, right? Newcastle were third, and they'll be thinking the same. They want to get back to winning ways, and Leicester, I mean, they were improving, so that will be a massive opportunity. After that, I mean, Arsenal, West Ham. Oh man, do I have to cheer on West Ham? Bloody hell.
Mate, Arsenal beat them, won't they? They'll beat them.
You'd expect so. I mean, again, it's one of those things. Like Arsenal, if they have an early wobble, And that that West Ham
Oh,
game,
that'd
if it
be
was
nice.
West Ham away, you'd feel a bit more confident that they could get
Yeah.
something. But if Arsenal play well that first game back, that will set them up, and they'll
Yeah.
know that they've got
They're back
they've
into
got to
it.
play us in the middle of January. They've got. I mean, it's weird that both Spurs and Arsenal have games against Man City to catch up on.
Yeah.
But like you look at the other teams around us. Chelsea have got a relatively winnable home game. So have Man United. That Leeds Man City game
City.
might be a classic. But I just, like, for Spurs, it's an away game against a tough opponent. If we can get 3 points, that's huge. Absolutely huge.
Yeah, 'cause
first game back.
Liverpool are away at Villa, and Villa are quite capable of getting something against them because Liverpool were a bit hit or miss, weren't they? And if we can keep that a gap, because I think if I go back on here at the moment, the league table shows that we are fourth, but Liverpool are on 22 points. They got a game in hand over us, so we need to sort of try and keep that distance with them, don't we?
It's interesting. Like, I'm only thinking about going higher. Right, like
Yeah.
I recognise that Arsenal and City are probably unlikely to be caught, but we can still get Arsenal. I know it's 8 points and a game in hand, but like I don't think it's out of the question that with over half the season we can claw that back.
No,
I
we've got to beat
genuinely
them.
think that I'm a bit worried about United going on a run more than I am Liverpool, and certainly more than I am Chelsea. But if the top four ends up being Arsenal, City, Spurs, and United, I think they're probably the four best teams right now. It's just whether Liverpool can deal with the injuries that they have, and I'm not so sure that they will. That with Luis Diaz being out for another 3 months, I don't really love Darwin. We know that Salah has not been great this season, but they seem to be not struggling, but you don't know right now with Liverpool. But I want to get above Newcastle. Once I get above Newcastle, then I'll probably worry about who's behind me. But right now, I think Spurs are pretty well placed to make a run for it and hopefully close the gap on that awful lot down the road.
Well, that's a positive note to finish on. So, Craig, thanks for coming on tonight, mate. Glad to be back on, mate, talking Spurs.
Loved it. Yeah, it feels like it's been ages, doesn't it? So excited for the week ahead, and there's a busy schedule of shows, I think. So look forward to it.
Yeah, James, we're getting the shows back ready. Obviously, me and you have got our transfer bonanza in between Christmas and New Year to whet everybody's appetite. So thanks for coming on, mate. Thanks for taking time out of your busy drinking and partying schedule to come and talk with us middle-aged old fogies or whatever you want to call us.
I'm at home now, so there's more partying to be done, but I find a way. Thanks for having me on as ever. Been a lovely conversation. The Excel spreadsheet of stats I started building it today. It's going to be massive by the time we get our transfer show, and it's going to be stats for hours and hours. It's going to be brilliant. So.
And they're not going to be boring, shitty stats, are they, James? We're going to have a bit of fun with it and just,
they're going
to get people to watch and getting people's opinions back and forth and just having a bit of fun. And HG, thanks for coming back on. We've had a couple of weeks rest from the World Cup, but glad to have you back on. You glad to be back on talking Spurs, mate?
I am. I'm glad because I've got my early Christmas present on, my new Spurs PJs.
Oh,
has
it got number 8 on the back?
Get them from No, it's the PJ set. It's not the real thing. So Spurs got some retro PJs that I got as an early present. Yeah, Spurs are my life. So absolutely, I'm thrilled to have them back. I don't like worrying about.
Obviously, after your wife and your daughter, HG.
Well, Spurs were first. Chronologically, at least, Spurs were first.
Yeah,
so
obviously,
they know they know where they are in the priorities. But Spurs, come on. Spurs.
So everyone, thanks for tuning in. Please hit the like. Obviously, subscribe as well if you're not a subscriber. We've had one new member tonight, which is brilliant. And, we're all glad to be back. And keep your eye on the socials, the stuff we'll be putting on there. And just tune in and get involved. We're back talking Spurs. So, as we always say, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
It didn't come home. Oh, no, wait. Come on, you Spurs.